Okay, we're live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September 4th, 2025 Police and Public Safety meeting. I am going to begin by taking attendance at Councilmember Brennan, Supervisor Cassie Dorian, myself, Deputy Chief Twitty, Lieutenant Frenier, Town Clerk Marley, Town Attorney Fitting, Judge Swinton, Comptroller Kara Parks. And I have Miss Zurich, welcome back. Who's here for Mosquito Fire District 1. The first order of business, we need a motion to accept the August 12th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Operationally, we're still working on the dangerous dog agreement that we spoke at in the last meeting. I don't have any sort of resolution to that at this point, but we do need to re-up that for 2026. I'll let everybody know as I get that. Also under operations, we need a resolution to accept the Governor Traffic Safety Committee grant money. This year, Lieutenant Frenier did a great job applying for the child passenger safety grant we applied for and received $1,600. And for the directed patrols, which includes Buckle New York and any other extra patrols we're putting out with directed targeted enforcement combined, that number is $13,580. So that just gives us more money to put more police officers on the road to hopefully curb some of the bad behavior that goes on out there. So great job to Todd, Lieutenant Frenier, for doing that. Under fleet and equipment, we're still ongoing with the DOT master agreement. We thought we were going to be on last meeting to do a resolution to approve this. Apparently DOT doesn't, either they've got a new process and they're not familiar with it yet or not. Something changed internally on their end, and they haven't gotten back to us with what the language we need to do a resolution is to accept up to $40,000 in reimbursement monies for digital speed limit signs fixed permanently on Route 7.
They're definitely going ahead with it. I spoke to Tonko's office today. I have an update on that too, but that's what they said their number one is, and they're focused on doing it. So at least we know it's not just a waiting game.
They're definitely going to do it, yes, but we just have to wait for them to figure out how they have to go about it.
Yeah, I feel like that's not that big of a question though, right? Maybe I should have asked Natalie to ask about that. Just language, right?
I don't know.
I could ask her.
We also have a Verizon agreement to utilize poles for our LPRs. This is something we've discussed about in the past. Because Verizon is sort of co-tenant on these poles that we're utilizing, I'm confusing them now. National Grid makes us get approval through that company as well to ensure that we're not messing with their equipment that's on the pole. So Lee and I are going to review that, hopefully get that on for resolution 2 if we can. And then lastly, under fleet and equipment, we have the LPR DOT law enforcement agreement. This is something that came up recently. Detective Munger's been working on this. This is, I guess, in some summation, DOT will allow us to put up LPR equipment in their right of ways, but this is specific for law enforcement. They want to ensure that we're not selling misinformation and things of that nature because we are collecting data from plates that are going down. So even though it's a public space, because we're putting the equipment in their right of way, they make us do this extra step as well. Under building, we're still doing, I'm gonna follow back up with Charlie to see if we got an estimate on rekeying the doorways that we had discussed in the last meeting as a part of our accreditation. Also just an update, I didn't have it on the agenda, but we got an estimate. Charlie did a great job getting an estimate on our floors. They have not been done in a long time. In fact, I don't think, according to Charlie, the DD has ever been stripped and waxed. And so we had a company called Complete Building Solutions Charlie brought in to give us an estimate, which I thought was incredibly reasonable, of $490 to do floors, which I had a gentleman's bet with some people that I thought was going to be an extra zero attached to that, and I lost, obviously. So I spoke with the owner of the company today. They're about 3 weeks out, so we're going to get something on the schedule and get them in here to do that. And I spoke with Kara about possibly utilizing some building maintenance line funds to do that. Under training, our agency is going to be conducting department-wide training on the Teaser 10. Excuse me, it's going to be range training and Teaser 10 training simultaneous September 28th through the 29th. The Teaser 10s, as you'll remember, are our newest piece of equipment that we purchased through the burn grant. It's a little bit different style training because these are in fact classified federally as firearms because of the propulsion system that's within them. So we generally do Taser training inside. We're going to take it outside to make sure that we're all safe. And as a part of that as well, at Teaser 10 training, we also have a really cool VR headset that we can do virtual training for different simulated scenarios that we're going to be looking to roll out too. Under training also, Detective Munger is going to be attending photography school September 15th through the 19th. This is the prerequisite to the evidence school as a detective. How long has he been a detective for now?
I thought you were gonna say it's for the garbage pail kids.
No, it takes a while for these trainings to come up. It's something that we do for all of our detectives. It just took us a while to get to that point with Ian because of the availability of the trainings. Myself, Deputy Chief Twitty, Lieutenant Frenier, Detective Sergeant John Connor, Sergeant Henry, and Sergeant Fogger are going to be attending the New York State Law Enforcement Symposium, which is September 16th through 18th. It's something we've done now 3 years. I think it's the past 3 years.
Yeah.
We've done it. We try to take all of our sergeants up into our command staff and go to the symposium. There's a lot of good different things that we can sign up for and get training on while we're there. And it's a good time for us to spend together and talk as well. So didn't have anything specific under citizen correspondence. Under town events, we have Coffee with a Cop. Again, that's the third Tuesday monthly. I'll be down at the Senior Center. Please come join us. Also, I got an update today. There is, and again, it's not on the agenda, there's a Coffee with a Cop actually tomorrow at Target from 12 to 2. So please come see Officer Thomason will be there running that through the Traffic and Community Engagement Division. The Mohawk Hudson Marathon is October 12th. They sent us an initial letter, and usually by now, they've had about 5 meetings with us, and I've had no contact with them. So I sent an email today and copied one of you, Aaron, and
She just
Joe.
emailed back. I think.
Okay. Just trying to get that into motion because usually they're.
Oh, yeah, it's October, right?
Sure is. That's why I sent that email today. So. I asked her for the copy of the permit because I would have assumed they would have had that from the county.
She said, oh, there's something else that she attached to her insurance. Oh, maybe we can go
Only
through
the
that.
map, it's so
It's yeah, it's
usually she provides that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what she provides.
Michelle, under town clerk, I left on food trucks and background check fees because we're still working on those. Did you want to add anything to that?
Mhm.
Just plugging along. Under the court, Judge, do you have anything for the court?
No, the only thing is we might be putting in a JCAP grant. I gotta see if we still have time to do it. We didn't think we had anything to put in before, but the legislature just changed the virtual appearance rules for some matters. So during COVID, we could do arraignments on misdemeanor traffic tickets for people who lived out of state because they have to be arraigned. Otherwise, they just sit forever. So in response to that, OCA said, hey, here's a list of equipment that everybody should get if they want to do these. So I think it's kind of like a ready set package. I think it's going to look a lot like what you have for bus patrol, but probably best to keep it separate. So I got to check the timing and all that kind of stuff. But we will need a resolution, I think, to accept the money.
It would be nice if they allowed patrolling or ask for everything.
Yeah, and-
It's harder when there's an order of protection or something. That's required.
Yeah,
We have machines that we can send them through and have people sign.
Assuming everything works at the time
Yeah.
she needed to.
Yeah.
and I mean, for a year and a half during COVID, it's like I issued order of protection and I would tell the defendant during the arraignment what the terms were.
I mean, I'm not the judge, so
Yeah.
if you're good with it.
I-
Something I would prefer to be in person as an attorney, but
All things being equal, yes, but rather than have a drawer full of out-of-state misdemeanor tickets that we can't.
well, the
clear,
tickets,
because
yes, you're saying that
I'm saying
Yeah,
for all arraignments.
to transition potentially away from
They're not allowing everything
Yeah.
in what they just loosened it up for.
program.
And county court and Supreme Court have been allowed, they were allowed to continue doing the virtual stuff after COVID. It's only city court and lower that was taken away. But we cleared a lot of misdemeanor tickets during COVID. Exactly that reason. So hopefully we'll do the same.
There's something nice about being a region. From an operational perspective, I think that's what I was saying.
Yeah, if we had defense
Right.
counsel present at all times, and we could just grab them and do the arraignment, I'd go back to doing them here.
Elena, did you have anything else you want to add under town attorney?
No, I think that about sums it up.
Everything's ongoing. We anticipate bus patrol hearings, potentially ramping
We
back
have
up.
Monday and then Saturday, is it this coming?
This coming Monday is mine. He has one in October, and I'm November 3rd, I had my one. So,
Miss Michelle, did you have anything?
Thank you, actually. So we did have a fire today at an apartment complex. It was room and contents only. It's under investigation. It was controlled by a working sprinkler system. There was one victim that was unresponsive that was treated by District 1 employees, and thankfully she's okay. She just suffered minor injuries. Also, you're going to be seeing new faces around. We hired 7 new firefighter paramedics. 4 of them are at the academy right now. 3 of them are here, waiting to go to the academy in the spring.
It's great news.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really
awesome.
good news. That's not-
Under school district, I just kept school resource officer on. It was sort of a very quick completion. It took a long time to get here, but it was a quick completion. We collaborated with the district to do an MOU, and we have a school resource officer, which is exciting for the district and for our police department, our community. It's Sergeant Brandon Mara, who has been assigned. He's primarily going to be at the high school. He is considered a district-wide sort of liaison from the SRO program. We're really excited that it was his first day. He was already there. And so we're hoping to build out that program and just continue to build those relationships with our school community. So thank you to the school for working through this, because I know it was quite a process for all of us, but we got there. So
good choice too.
didn't have anything under personnel. Under other, I had the town of Niskuna event application that we leave on as ongoing. That's still being worked on. And then I just added something that we got yesterday regarding Consall Road. There was a traffic study done through Schenectady County regarding Consall Road. This has been a topic of conversation with one of our residents, Mr. Collette, for some time. I'm not going to read the entire study. You know, some of the highlights that I highlighted were, you know, over the last 13 years, this is their language again, traffic volumes have declined slightly, down nearly 15%, while the 85th percentile speed has remained stable at about 39 to 40, so it's pretty consistent over time. They also mentioned that as part of that 85th percentile remaining stable, that it indicates that motorists perceive the roadway conditions as consistent and continue to select speeds appropriate to the geometry and surrounding context, which is that, again, we've talked about this at length with 85th percentiles. That's how we set the speed limits. And then just that final paragraph that said, you know, at present, Consall Road demonstrates stable traffic volumes, consistent speed patterns, and localized crash trends. 2 of the crash trends they talked about were from Ferris Road, but they spoke about a lot of that had to do with the sewers that was there, that is no longer there. And then also Consall at Balltown, but Balltown is obviously a state road. With no major roadway, operational, or safety changes identified. Future evaluations would likely arise from changes in development, land use, or pedestrian activity, at which point analysis following 85th percentile, New York State Department of Transportation, and the federal highway guidance would be appropriate. So it appears as though, based on their analysis, sort of what we've been saying all along is consistent with regards to that. There isn't anything that is demonstrating a need for change to that area. One of the things they did highlight in this as well was the concept of who had the authority to change the speed limit. And we know that there was legislation that was done in, well, you know, it was 2022, we said, the legislation happened.
Yes, 2022, January,
Which-
Riley.
Was that?
Do you need anything else before?
No, I was just gonna mention that, you know, the town can set speed limits, based on specific, identified need after consulting with, whether it's a traffic engineer, whether there's safety concerns that are manifested in terms of numbers and statistics and things of that. But according to their report, it is saying in fact that there isn't any changes that would be required at this point based upon their analysis. Is that fair to say, Aaron?
Yeah,
Based on the
that's
reading of
fine.
this one? So we'll continue to monitor it. We'll continue to be out there and doing our part from the police standpoint. I know there have been other conversations about changing speed limits in different parts of town. And I think, you know, just my recommendation would be, if that is a continuing conversation, whether it's Council River or somewhere else, it would really have to be something that the town would have to decide they were going to do a thorough analysis through a company, an outside company, to determine what would be appropriate and what would be appropriate. I don't think any of us in here claim to have the expertise to make those determinations. So.
I think one thing they did highlight, and I sent this over to the building department, is just if there's changes to the road, there's new development, there's, you know, something changes zoning wise, then there would be a need for reevaluation, but that's kind of the only other trigger that they talked about.
2022 change that lets the town change the speed limit, because that's a state road.
Console is a county road. So not to go too deep into it,
Doesn't it run into Albany County?
it does.
Doesn't that make it a state road? Really?
There wasn't as much clarity even when we had town planner Lou Robertson here, who's much more thorough with this stuff than I am. You know, when we originally started talking about this with regards to speeds and the speed limits, setting speed limits and all this, and whose authority had, you know, it was always through the years, county road was dictated by the county. At some point, they did expand that legislation, which is why different communities are changing their speed limits. But even at that time, it was still unclear to us whether or not we have the authority. We do have the authority, but it has to be within the perimeters of someone saying there's an identified need to do that. And it's not specifically to us, it's gotta be tangible evidence of why we would need to change.
And is it just speed or traffic control devices?
That legislation, I think, was specific to speed. Yeah, the traffic control device, as we know through the concept of working through DOT on Route 7, is a whole different bag of potato chips. I mean, places where we have thought there is a defined need for instance, a stoplight over by Bellevue Women's Hospital so that we can have a crosswalk. Even that, we're being told by DOT potentially does not meet the requirements of potentially being able to do that based on the federal guidelines, the DOT guidelines, and everything else. We're still working through that process to try to say, well, are we really evaluating that correctly? But these are the folks that do this, and they're telling us otherwise.
They shut me down today.
It was-
like, here's
it was
what I
pretty-
need from you, and they're like, you're not gonna get that.
It was pretty sudden. I mean, we literally said, this would make, this just makes sense. I think it's common sense. And they said, that's not an option. So,
Common sense.
common sense.
Actually, I'll have to fill you in details. I just copied you on the email to Natalie. I called Tonko's office to try to get an update because it's like, yeah, this is not what we talked about. And she was great. She had a whole meeting with them and she got a completely different story than we got from the other two groups that were here, but let's see what's what.
To that point, and I'll just mention out loud in the meeting, you know, we recently had, it was not a fatality. I did a press release on it because some news folks were reaching out. We had a auto pedestrian crash on Route 5, State Street. We're seeing a trend where, and people, I think inherently people's initial reaction is someone was speeding and they caused this crash when it comes to an auto pedestrian. I can tell you firsthand that the primary cause of the last recent auto pedestrians, including this last one, was pedestrian fault. We have people that are not using crosswalks. We have people that believe that they can walk into a crosswalk in front of moving traffic and that everyone is supposed to stop. That's not the way this works.
You're supposed to stop, so you can be right but dead.
Right. So,
It is the pedestrian's obligation to ensure that they have the freedom to walk across that road and they're not going to be hit prior to making that determination. There was a conversation I was having with Blake Chapman today because we have a lot of these really flashing lights that we hit buttons on. Those are not traffic control devices.
Right.
right? Those are warning signals that, hey, I want to attempt to cross, but that's not a traffic control device. And I didn't even know that, shame on me, until recently, as we were going through this with the county, we were talking about it. So, people that are walking have to ensure they need to look drivers in the eye and make sure they're stopped prior to crossing streets. In particular, in this one on Route 5, we have folks that are getting off of buses and coming behind the CTA buses, and they're going directly across State Street. That's not the best place to cross, and it's a blind spot, that no one can see that. So please, our pedestrians out there, we want you to be safe. Don't cross unless you know you can do so safely. Oh, that is all I have. Anybody else have anything else that I'm forgetting? So under resolutions, we have the Verizon agreement, we have the LPR DOT enforcement agreement. We have to do a Hudson Marathon resolution. I forgot, because the GTSC monies, we have to do a resolution on. I didn't add that for some reason. Is there? It was the other.
If we end up doing the JCAP, then
The
Contact.
sorry.
I'll contact them.
Okay.
Oh, no, the marathon.
Yes, I heard that. Our next meeting is going to be scheduled for October 9th at 3:30.
That's the updated one, right?
that's the update.
That's it.
Okay.
It's been the same.
And then I just need a motion to adjourn. And we're a second. All in favor?
I-
And we're going to close this meeting at 3:58 p.m. Thank you everyone for attending.